Welcome back folks, and welcome back to a new video. So today we're gonna be taking a look at Stalker 2 Stories Untold, which is the latest content update for this game. If you are not following, they have released over 5 hours of new storyline content. Now do keep in mind that this patch is not gonna be fixing a lot of stuff, so generally when they do release patches and updates, they actually tackle everything that the game has, from like the source code to different missions to different gameplay options, etc, which is not going to be the case in this one, because this one specifically is about just adding more stuff to do if you finished everything, or maybe you are in the middle of your playthrough and you just got some more stuff. Now, as always, these stories start with a strange transmission and you have to uncover what it actually is. So specifically, they have added 8 new missions, 7 new locations, 6 new characters, 3 new unique items, a unique weapon, and more. Now, when it comes to the actual weapon, they have added the GP37V2, which is the modified version of the regular GP37 rifle. So this is actually something you get here. Now, also besides that, you're actually getting a new hub in the Burnt Forest region. Again, I'm not gonna be going further into details because, well, there are some spoilers, which revolve around it. But overall, it's kind of nice that we're getting a new hub, because the Burnt Forest location was kind of far away from everything else and you had to trek a little bit more, especially if you wanted to go maybe into chemical plant, etc. But now it's going to be a lot easier. And there is also a nuance, and this is something I really did enjoy, and that's different sort of decisions you can make throughout this quest line. Now, they're not going to be huge decisions in that sense, but what you do and how you approach certain situations and how you talk to people is going to play that role, especially when it comes to this specific storyline. So I'm kind of glad they're going this way, because it just gives you more depth within these stories and makes you think, because it's not going to be just go from point A to point B, get me that, bring it back, and that's it. But no, this one is a lot more fleshed out. When it comes to the new characters, when it comes to locations you visit, I highly recommend doing this, because especially if there are some items which you need, like for example a better detector for anomalies and artifacts, well, if you're very careful and you actually research everything where you go, you might actually find some very good stuff for your character, which can be very useful for you later on. Also, new characters were interesting. I think they fit really the location really well, and to be honest, I am really glad that almost every 1.5 months, 2 months, we're getting new content for this game. Either, as a patch which, fixes everything that they've been working on, or adding more stuff. And because there's gonna be even more stuff in the future, especially around the DLCs and stuff which they have talked about prior to the release. I mean, that's the whole point. People bought like some of the more expensive versions of the game. That's gonna be coming in the future as well, because this specific content update is free for everyone. Now, when it comes to the other stuff within the game, they did actually manage to sneak in a few fixes and updates to the game, and specifically for the master difficulty and the expedition mode itself. So this is what they said. This change in the master difficulty and expedition mode allows you to simplify the save file system if you want to play on master difficulty or any other difficulty with the expedition mode. After starting the game, if master difficulty or difficulty with expedition mode is selected, you can enable the manual save system in the settings menu. This option is enabled once and permanently for the current playthrough and allows you to save with quick save and the regular save. So just keep in mind, don't do this if you actually want to, keep playing on this expedition and, master difficulty itself. Now, when it comes to the additional fixes, as they said, here's a few which they have done. First off, they fixed an issue where multiple artifacts could spawn in one place. I was not lucky with this, sadly. Now, they optimized multiple mutant models, nothing specifically within the gameplay itself that I've seen. They've also fixed an issue when the NPC could not find a way to the shelter during an emission at the cement factory location, same with the emission in Zalislaya. So keep in mind, when it comes to these things, pathing of enemies and your friendlies, it wasn't really the best, so they have been working on that. Now, also they fixed the issue that would cause a massive mutant horde to spawn at the plant location location of the garbage region, which was happening prior with this update. I'm not sure if it's happening again because personally I have never experienced this issue, but in the previous update you had a problem because apparently the way the game was loading, it kept some of the monsters just laying around where they were not supposed to be. So what it ultimately did is that it multiplied the amount of enemies. So I've legit seen someone fight 6 bloodsuckers because the game was not able to properly unload them, and it kind of left them in that location, just kept adding more and more and more mutants, which was you know, it can be very problematic. And also they fixed an issue where the player could obtain the Heart of Chernobyl artifact from the regular anomalies. I suppose also if you got it, you got it, but after this update it's not gonna be happening again. Now, these fixes aside, going back to the main story itself, in case you want to start it, for me it started as I was walking around the burnt forest area. So keep in mind, once you load into the game, you have to wait for about maybe 10-15 minutes of just regular gameplay until you get a transmission. You're gonna be called for help, and that's how these untold stories are going to begin. One of the things I do like is that it takes you into the red forest a little bit at the beginning, because, well, red forest is probably one of my favorite locations within the Stalker universe itself, because, well, first off, it looks good, and second of all, it can be very deadly because there's many mutants around to watch out, and also all deadly anomalies around. So you're gonna be visiting various locations around the zone itself. They're not going to be spread out too much, but you're gonna be sort of getting the idea of what the story is and where it's gonna be taking you slowly but surely as you progress further on. And I feel it also gives you some, I'm not going to say moral choices, but just the way you feel as a character and the way you're gonna be playing this game, because even in Stalker 2 regular game, the way you talk with certain people, decisions you make, they do play a role in what the sort of ending is going to be without, you know, spoiling too much. So we can say that these stories are somewhat similar to it, but on a much smaller scale. But they were not annoying to the point where I said, okay, this is broken, or I was having some issues. When it comes to that, bug-wise and glitches-wise, for me personally, all of the new content was really working well. Now, when it comes to bugs and glitches I experienced, first off, I'm not going to go into performance in this video because, to be honest, nothing has changed from 1.7, so the performance I was getting during my 1.7 patch review, I'm pretty much still having right now, which does mean that things are slowly but surely improving, and, you know, 1.7 specifically was tackling those issues quite a lot. But one thing which started happening again, which wasn't happening too much for me in 1.7, is how A-Life spawns enemies. So again, I'm experiencing the same issues where I'm going to look around myself, there is not going to be anyone. I approach a location, I do something, I turn around, all of a sudden there's going to be either friendly or enemy stalkers behind me. That means they haven't arrived to that location, they pretty much just loaded in and they started walking. I can verify that because many times, like, the area itself was very open, so I was able to see if someone was far away. So you're telling me that within like 5-6 seconds you managed to arrive at a location and just start walking around. I think this has to do something with some of the like faction war elements they implemented previously, which means that stalkers can go now, or well, different factions, they're gonna be taking some parts of the zone, some locations, they're gonna be defending it against mutants or well, other factions themselves, and that's going to create this dynamic feeling within the zone itself. Now again, those things happen from time to time. I do see downed stalkers, I do see that things are happening when I'm not around, but I'm still having these issues a lot where things just start spawning around me. I even had a problem like previously as I was just playing the game on 1.7 where I was walking and then all of a sudden 6 stalkers, or well, 6 bandits just appeared in front of me, just spawned in and started shooting at me. So far I'm really happy with how they're updating the game. It will be interesting to see what's gonna be happening in 2026 because they still have that engine upgrade which was announced, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest changes within this game because usually this engine upgrade, well, theoretically should be giving us more frame rate. That's the whole reason why they're gonna be updating the engine, because the version of the engine that they were working the game on has issues, and you've seen it throughout the game itself. They try to patch it a lot, but unless you go and update that engine and fix, well, Unreal Engine 5 issues, you can only do so much. So hopefully this engine upgrade is gonna be helping us a lot when it comes to that, when it comes to stability, when it comes to frame rate, but I think it will, because they wouldn't be actually going and doing it if that wasn't the case, because updating the engine itself within the game can take a while, and we still don't have a specific time frame when is that coming out. They said somewhat 2025, or well, the end of 2025, but they also said and mentioned that those things might be delayed into 2026, so it wouldn't be a surprise. Especially now that everyone is gonna be going to like Christmas break, New Year break, whatever, you know, you're not gonna be pushing out too many updates, or you're gonna be having them work a lot until they return to work in January itself. But overall, look, I'm very happy. More Stalker content, I'm always up for it. It was fun to experience this, and I'm definitely looking forward to everything which they have in the future, specifically when it comes to those DLCs and stories which they were announcing. I want to see where it takes us and what's gonna be happening with that. And on top of that, they still have, I think, a good year of updating this game, because I think, you know, Stalker 2.0 is gonna be the definitive edition that I think everyone should be playing. But so far, look, if you play the game, if you finished it, maybe you're looking for more content, you can re-download it now, and you're gonna get like 4, 5, 6 hours, again, depending on you. You're gonna be getting more stuff to do, which is fun. So that's it for this video. I don't want to go too long into this because, well, everything else is pretty much spoilers, and you know, I don't want to talk about it. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to tell me down below, what do you think about this new update? Did you play it? Did you have any issues? And what are some of the main things you want GSC to be fixing in the future when it comes to Stalker 2 itself? If you want to stay updated with everything Stalker 2 related, don't forget to subscribe today, and also check us out on Twitter and Discord. Huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and I will see you guys very soon with a new video, because I have a lot to talk about in both Stalker 2 and all of the other games which I have been working on. So, as always, get out of here, Stalker.